Hello everyone, this is POW. In this update, we've got wild weather over the next couple of days with widespread severe storms, huge fire risk, heavy snow, and blizzard warnings in place. So we're going to break this down so you can keep ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at the overall surface map this morning for your April the 12th. And you can see we had some storms last night in portions of Oklahoma and Arkansas, and every one of them seemed to produce big hail. And unfortunately, we had several tornadoes that came out of those severe storms. The cap did actually hold in portions of North Texas, but that's not going to be the case today. We actually see a little bit of disturbance, some rain showers moving in from the south. There's going to be a lot more lift in place, so I do think the cap actually breaks down here in parts of Texas. We got widespread heavy snow into portions of Montana today and the Dakotas, where they've got blizzard warnings in place. And then we had that rare snow event yesterday in the Pacific Northwest. In fact, Portland Airport picked up over an inch of snow recorded at the airport. That was the first time ever they actually seen snowfall in the month of April since they started keeping records back in 1940. So a lot of heavy snow fell yesterday in the Pacific Northwest, but man, we got a lot to talk about. So let's really delve into it, kind of give you an overview what's happening for today on the hazard map. We still have some winter weather advisories and still winter storm warnings out here along the Pacific Northwest, but more heavily snow amounts going to be entering portions of Idaho into Wyoming, especially into Montana, where they've got some winter storm warnings. And there is your red, that is blizzard warning, guys, and the Dakotas, where they're expecting feet of snow and widespread wind advisories as well. And all that red flag warnings, that's the huge fire risk that's going to be unfolding over the next couple days out here in West Texas, Western Oklahoma, West Kansas, and Western Nebraska there. That's along the dry line. Humidity values are going to be dangerously low. So it's going to be extreme to critically high fire danger out here with all the heavier winds. It's going to be really easy to spark a fire, and it's going to be really dangerous conditions. But man, there's the snow. I mean, this is the official forecast from the National Weather Service up there in North Dakota. And I don't know if I've ever seen something like this. I mean, 36 inches. I mean, this is the official forecast from the National Weather Service. 3 feet of snow in Minot, North Dakota. I mean, this is April, folks. Here's the breakdown. We've got widespread blizzard warnings in place. There's places in Nebraska, into North Dakota there that could pick up blizzard-like conditions for a solid 6, 9, possibly up to 12 hours straight with all the very high winds in place. So foot to 2 feet, upwards to peaking out towards 3 feet of snow into Minot, North Dakota over the next couple of days, and those blizzard warnings are already in place. With the heavier snow will continue to ramp up. But today, the Storm Prediction Center did highlight and actually upgraded now. This is the morning update of a moderate risk for severe storms later on today. This is going to be an overnight setup, unfortunately, a nocturnal type setup into portions of Iowa, into Mason City, into Fort Dodge, getting back into Boone, Iowa. Iowa is going to be under the gun, and there's going to be several spots are going to be highlighted. A lot more colder air aloft. There's going to be big time hail producers. And then down further south into North Texas, I think it's going to be much easier to erode the cap later on this afternoon. So they did highlight an enhanced risk for much of North Texas, getting into portions of Kansas City, Missouri, Omaha, Nebraska, going into places and all the way south into portions of Austin here. But widespread severe slight risk extends all the way into Louisiana, into Arkansas, as well as Missouri. So let's just break this down and take up the hail risk, because there is going to be a lot of cold air aloft. This lift today is going to be a little bit greater. It's going to be helping to erode the cap. And any storm that does develop, they're going to become supercells and could pose that large, dangerous, very large hail. We saw it yesterday in Oklahoma. They had numerous hailstones of golf ball, some tennis ball. They even had some baseball, some baseball to possibly even some softball size hail in Logan, Arkansas yesterday. And we're probably going to be seeing that type of criteria down here into portions of North Texas today, into San Antonio, into Dallas, into Austin, into Fort Worth, back into portions of Oklahoma City. Will be under the gun for these widespread. Any storm that does develop could turn severe quickly in this environment and could be big time hail producers. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But you still have a higher, greater probability of seeing some of that large hail where they do have that moderate risk in portions of Iowa here, but a little bit lighter amounts as you extend portions of Houston, going all the way into portions of Louisiana, getting into Little Rock, back into Missouri. You can't be ruled out of some larger hail in this neck of the woods as well, but back into the brown shaded areas, more likely some of your pocket change hail with some mixed in quarter type variety. But there's your tornado threat for today. So we have a widespread 5% risk with this nasty squall line, these kind of embedded supercells, discrete that's going to be moving across from west to east into the afternoon hours. Further south, it's more of an afternoon evening threat. Further north, it's going to be more of an overnight nocturnal type threat into the overnight hours and the kind of the wee hours of the morning. But yes, they did highlight a hatched risk for those strong tornadoes and a possibility of those EF2 type tornadoes as well, or greater potentially in and around the Omaha, Nebraska area, Des Moines, get into Sioux City. Iowa is going to be under the gun for that very large hail. And again, this is going to be an overnight setup. So definitely have a way to get all the watches and warnings in place and have your safe zone in place. But let's kind of break this down as far as the timing further down to the south. So I do feel like even the daylight hours, as that disturbance that I showed you at the surface map this morning, going to be lifting up from the south. It's the upper level trough is going to be diving in from the west with this big time disturbance. There's going to be some cold air aloft. You should have some severe storms that break out through the southwest of the Metroplex, west part of the Metroplex, and by 7 o'clock they should be highlighted over portions of central Texas, say the Austin area, into Waco, into North Texas, with big time hail producing thunderstorms. So definitely be on high alert in this area, really after about 4 o'clock time frame through about 4 to 10 o'clock time frame through the evening time frame in portions of Texas. But as we extend into, say, the 11 o'clock time frame tonight, those storms will be continuing to shift off further off to the northeast. They'll be in northeast Texas by then, entering portions of, say, Shreveport, Louisiana, getting into portions of Arkansas by then. But all of our attention will be turned to the north there with this very heavy band that's going to be developing into supercells. That is going to become your very large hail producers and your nocturnal tornado threat as it starts to say the 11 o'clock, the midnight time frame hours. And this is going to go into the wee hours of the morning back into Iowa. This extends and kind of back builds along this this dry line here through Nebraska, through Kansas, and as we extend and kind of give you an overview of the setup for today, we've got all that heavier snow is going to be continuing to fly into portions of Oregon, getting into Idaho, into Montana, into Wyoming, but very heavy snow with those blizzard-like conditions in place for portions of Montana, especially North Dakota. There's the critical fire danger out west Texas into portions of New Mexico, into portions of Colorado and west Oklahoma and western Kansas here. And all the severe storms are going to be taking place, extending from basically San Antonio today into Houston, all the way up into Iowa. And then there's the heavier storms with the heavier rain going to be extending through Louisiana, getting into portions of Mississippi with just sporadic showers in portions of the Ohio Valley in the Northeast. But for tomorrow, everything shifts off into Wednesday, along into the portions of the Southeast where they have this huge enhanced risk for severe storms, extends all the way from, say Shreveport to Jackson to Little Rock, all the way into western Tennessee, getting into portions of Missouri by then, Illinois, Indiana. This goes all the way up into Even portions of Wisconsin is going to be under that slight risk for severe storms, and even Michigan, all the way up until Milwaukee. So this is a huge event with more widespread severe weather, as that upper level trough and that cold front will be trailing behind it as all the severe weather continues to push off to the east. But let's highlight the hail threat for tomorrow, because it's going to be another significant day into portions of Memphis, Tennessee, getting into Shreveport, back into Little Rock, Arkansas. All those areas will be under the gun, extending all the way into portions of Missouri. I've seen that golf ball size hail or potentially larger activity for the hail threat, and then possibly even some lighter amounts as that squall line kind of moves through in the morning hours into East Texas, and that'll extend into the daytime hours as it gets into portions of Louisiana. But some very heavy hail on the table for tomorrow with this dangerous setup. And then the tornado threat is going to be widespread as well. So you can see this huge 10% hatch risk for those large tornadoes for tomorrow. That'll be under the gun into Shreveport, into Greenville, into Little Rock, going into Memphis, Tennessee, back into Springfield, and all the way up into portions of southern Illinois and southern Indiana here, without all that widespread possibly tornadic activity. With all this area is going to be rotating, so you can see a huge potential outbreak going to be unfolding for tomorrow. And this extends, the tornado threat will extend all the way from New Orleans going into portions of southern Wisconsin and southern Michigan here. So this whole area will be under the gun. So I'll be live both days tracking these storms as these move across. But kind of here's the overview for your Wednesday, April the 13th. With all the heavier snow continuing to impact the Pacific Northwest, there's the blinding, blowing snow blizzard continuing all the way into the Dakotas. Those feet of snow will be piling up by then. Snow drifts could be upwards to almost 10 feet, guys. 10 feet of snow drifts up into the Dakotas. All that critical fire danger with widespread, below zero dew points back behind it, with extremely dry air. Relative humidity values are in the single digits, if not 3 or 4%. I mean, that's just bone dry, and widespread critical fire danger back behind this cold front, with all the widespread severe storms ahead of this. And then there's the warm front as it continues to lift from the south to the north, and there's the warm sector. There's kind of the bullseye awaiting for this colder air to disrupt the storms. Well, let's kind of give you an overall setup, because this is by 3 o'clock in the morning. So we talked about 11 o'clock, it's going to be into Iowa. But by 3 a.m. Wednesday morning, that should extend into portions of Missouri, all the way down into Kansas, getting into Oklahoma by then, with this nasty line of severe storms with all three modes on the table for a nocturnal threat, into the overnight hours. And as we extend into the 8 o'clock time frame, the cold front is finally going to be approaching. So you could be seeing another maybe higher wind threat going in through portions of Dallas, especially as you get into East Texas, back into portions of Oklahoma again, into Missouri, getting into Arkansas, with these sporadic supercells, stronger storms trying to pop out ahead of the system into western Tennessee, getting into southern Illinois and Indiana. As we extend throughout the day, continuing in throughout the day in the daytime hours into the 6 o'clock time frame, that severe threat will continue into portions of Illinois, into Missouri, back into Arkansas, continue into portions of Mississippi by then, where all the heavier snow is going to continue to dump into North Dakota. As we extend into the, say, the 1 o'clock in the morning time frame hour, this will continue to push off into the east. Now it should be over portions of Louisiana, back into Mississippi, get into Alabama by then, get into central Tennessee, central Kentucky, with those heavier storms on the severe side as well. That will extend into Indiana. So you can see a widespread event getting into portions of Michigan by then, with all the heavier snow trying to continue to wind down in the Dakotas. But as we get into that 10 o'clock morning time frame on Thursday, your April the 14th, you can see it kind of fading here. It's fading now. So that I think the cold front's actually going to be finally catching up to the warm sector, where it significantly disrupts the severe weather in a big way. So I still feel you get some storms along this boundary into the southeast, headed into Georgia by then, as it extends now into the Carolinas, into portions of Virginia, into West Virginia. But I feel much of that cold air is going to be entrenched in the warm sector that's going to be disrupting these storms. So by then, along this cold front, it should just be light to moderate rain and possibly some stronger storms, but maybe a few severe storms, but nothing of the magnitude that you're going to be seeing the next couple of days, as all that heavier snow will continue to try to wind down in the Dakotas. But you can see all the cold air trailing behind this front. Obviously, it's going to be well below average, and where it's going to be snowing with that snowpack into Montana, into the Dakotas. But all that colder air in the below average anomalies is finally going to be entrenched in the warm sector, where it's going to be disrupting those storms as we get into Thursday morning, especially into Thursday afternoon. But by Friday morning, yeah, it's gone. I mean, it's all the way continuing to push off the coast. The snowstorms trying to wind down. The very low pressure system of like a 979 millibar low pressure will wind itself down over portions of Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota by then, and getting into Minnesota, and that will lift up into southern portions of Canada. With all the heavier snows will continue to wind down, but it's going to be very windy over the next couple of days. All those areas in green are widespread 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gust. Where you're going to be seeing severe storms, they could be 50, 60, upwards to 70 mile per hour wind gusts at times. So very windy conditions ahead and behind the front for the next several days. And then there's the snow. I mean, this is the official guidance from the National Weather Service. And again, I've never actually seen this before, of a location, especially from the National Weather Service, maxing out at 40 inches, guys. 40 inches in isolated spots in North Dakota. So that's an extreme amount of snow in a short amount of time, especially for April standards. And then widespread foots of snows into portions of Montana. So they're going to be making up any of their snowfall deficits in a big way. I think Bismarck's down about 13 inches on the year, but you're going to be well above that by the time this event is over, with all the heavier snows in the Intermountain West. So man, it's going to be really busy over the next couple of days. I plan on going live around 4 o'clock this afternoon to cover all the severe storms for today, and then I'll be live on Wednesday, tomorrow, with covering all those severe storms as it continues to push off to the east. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.